Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The warriors of Wintertooth face off against the World Walkers, as we have a Norsca mirror match on our hands, as I will be commanding Wintertooth, and Haku will have the command of the World Walkers, led by Wulfric. So for my army here, we do of course have Throg. He is going to be bringing his Wintertooth crown, as well as Fighter Die and Foe Seeker. We do have a Shaman, Sorcerer of Fire, up on his horse, going to be bringing Fireball and Burning Head. Rest of the army is going to be a front line of Marauders, with the Icehorn Marauders mixed in there, who do have perfect vigor. We have a few Berserkers in the back, and one unit of Marauder Champions going to hold down that center flank. Now, for the mobility, we do have 4 Horse Masters, and we have the Maws of Savagery, the Skinwolves ROR, who do have Vanguard as well, so they are able to kind of start with the rest of the Horse Masters and kind of help screen out the opposing Skirmish Cav. But for the forces of the World Walkers, they themselves have a ton of Horse Masters as well. They have 5 in total. Definitely goes to show kind of how this matchup does kind of progress, is you pretty much whoever has the better skirmish is going to have a much better time later on in the match. Now for the rest of the forces, it is going to be very wide, with Marauders mixed in with a few Berserkers mixed in there, and we do have a Marauder Hunter with Javelin in that back line to kind of get some fire in that regard. We have for the Lord, of course, it is Wulfric the Wanderer. He is going to be on his horse, and he is going to be bringing Seafang, Hunter of Champions, as well as Fighter Die and Foe Seeker. And for his Magic Caster, it is of course going to be a Shaman, Sorcerer of Fire, just like myself, going to be bringing Fireball and Burning Head. And in the far flank, we do have a little bit of fast movers with a pair of Norscan Ice Wolves on top of that to help chase things off, and the rest. So that is going to be all for the armies. So let's get things going, as the skirmish phase is already a bit underway. The 5 skirmishers from the World Walkers is going to be doing a bit better against, I mean, they're all Horse Masters, but we're going to really have to use these Maws of Savagery to help screen them out as best that they can, and try and focus down these other skirmish cav as much as possible. But for the time being, it's pretty much just going to be a back and forth between the two here. Maws of Savagery are going to get a little charge in, but they do need to pull out as they get caught up with the rest of the Berserkers, and they have taken quite a bit of damage from all of these Horse Masters, as the Horse Masters themselves charge in to the retreating Maws of Savagery. Now, they do have regen, but here is a little Burning Head in the back line. Not really going to be going through a huge mass of infantry, but it is going to catch some of the Horse Masters and do maybe a little bit of damage, as well as a boat is going to be soaring its way right through this mass of Horse Masters as well. Not doing a whole lot of damage there, mostly good for packed infantry. The Horse Masters are going to be able to tank that fairly effectively, but the Maws of Savagery have taken a ton of damage, and that is something they're going to have to pull back. They are going to rout, but they're going to have to try and pull back and try and get as much health back as they can before kind of committing to the fight anymore. And it looks like we have another Burning Head, this time from Wintertooth, going to be arcing its way right through these Marauders. These Marauders do pull out in time, but it will break the backs of that one unit, allowing these Marauders from Wintertooth to kind of filter in and engage the rest of the units, as they are being assisted by the Marauder Berserkers. Front line is going fairly decently, I suppose, for Wintertooth, as we do have the champions going to be mixed in here. I believe these are them right here. As they are going to be breaking down those Marauder Berserkers fairly effectively, though they are going to be taking a lot of firepower from all of these Horse Masters, as they are just firing away at these very elite units and doing some decent damage at that. It looks like we have another Burning Head, as both sides just going to be exchanging casts. These Marauders going to be able to dodge the brunt of that, though those Berserkers did take a decent amount of damage there, as the Ice Wolves are going to be kind of off into the periphery, chasing down some of these Horse Masters, but those Horse Masters should be able to kite away fairly effectively. They both do have some pretty good speed, though. And here is a kind of a return trip, as both of these Marauders and Marauder Berserkers kind of made a nice little alleyway, allowing that Burning Head to kind of go unimposed, because they really made sure that the World Walkers couldn't dodge that particular cast. But now we have Wulfric versus Throg to see who is the king of the north, as Throg is going to be dropping that hammer down onto Wulfric, and Wulfric is not going to want to have anything to do with that. Wulfric does put Hunter Champions down onto Throg, but he is just going to try and be pulling out of here. He does not want any of that because Throg is a very good anti-large character, and Wulfric is definitely more of an anti-hero character. He does do decent damage, but that nice little fireball should do a nice bit of damage to Throg. But Wulfric does rout as Throg does try and chase him off, but there isn't really anything close by to make sure that he does stay off the field. Everything else is pretty much tied up in the rear, so Wintertooth is going to have to satisfy with just routing him off for now, as he will be back later on. And here's a nice burning head, though, going to roast through all of these Marauder Berserkers, doing a good amount of damage there. Nice cast. I didn't catch all of the units that they wanted to, but now we kind of get into that late stage of the fight where all of the Marauders for the World Walkers have pretty much been broken down. There is some left, but there is very few. However, there is still 5 very healthy Horse Masters, all of which have some very decent ammo left as well. And we do have a Burning Head's going to try and arc its way through these units, and it does catch a good amount of them, even though there are some fast movers here. They do get caught out by that, taking some decent damage, because really that is kind of what the Wintertooth forces have to deal with them. All of their Horse Masters are very low on health. We have some in the back trying to break down these units of Marauder Berserkers. And we have a couple more coming in, but they are very heavily outnumbered, and they're just going to try and weather the storm, make them waste as much ammo as they can while chasing off the surrounding units in the rear, as those javelins did get chased off by those units of Maws of Savagery, and the rest of the Marauders getting broken down by the superior numbers that are left for Wintertooth, as another fireball is going to be arcing its way, trying to get into those Horsemasters, but a boat does arc right through all of the Marauders of Wintertooth. And right now, though, balance of power is still very even, maybe a little bit in the favor of Wintertooth at this point, just because all of these Horsemasters, they really don't have any support left, and we still have 2 very healthy lords left for Wintertooth with Throg and that Shaman, while the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire is still alive and well on the World Walker's side. Wulfric has taken a considerable amount of damage from that engagement with Throg early on, and Throg's going to be healing up while this skirmish phase does kind of progress, so that is going to be a little bit in the advantage of Throg, as he does have that little bit of regen. So the longer this goes, it's not necessarily the worst for him. However, all of these Horsemasters are going to be hot in pursuit for the rest of these units here, with these Ice Wolves going to be pulling in, but the Maws of Savagery will take that charge gladly, as they do try and break them down very quickly as the rest of the Horsemasters do pull out. But in comes the Marauder Horsemasters of the World Walkers, as they do try and get as many shots in as they can, but the Norscan Ice Wolves do break from the assault from those Maws of Savagery, and they do have some Berserkers in the mix as well. Going to be doing some decent damage, but they do shatter as well, but at the cost of those Maws of Savagery, as they are getting very, very low, and are getting very low to rout again. And an unfortunate cast there, a Fireball looking to be going the way towards Wulfric the Wanderer, does get blocked by Throg himself, as he takes that right into the face. And Burning Head's going to be going through one of the unit of Berserkers, though the rest of them did get a nice little dodge off in there. Another Hunter of Champions is going to be dropped on Throg, lowering his speed, his armor, and his melee defense, allowing all of these Marauder Horsemasters to really get some good shots off, as one unit does charge in, but Throg's going to be really liking that engagement. He's going to love wading into melee with these Horsemasters. He is a very good anti-large after all, and the rest of the Horsemasters are going to continue to fire in, and the longer that he can hold these units in place, the sooner that the rest of the units can kind of gather and then pressure the rest of the Horsemasters. Well, this one unit is now getting very, very isolated, as it does kind of overextend, trying to chase after these other Horsemasters, and everything just kind of collapses in on them, pretty much instantly routing them off, though the rest of the units for Wintertooth are getting slowly dragged down through the fire of all these Horsemasters, though those Horsemasters are now finally getting down to the last of their ammunition. And Throg himself, though, has taken a ton of damage from that skirmish, as he is starting to waver at this point, and Wintertooth really can't afford to lose him, because they need something that can deal with Wulfric and the rest of these Horsemasters, because once that if he does go down or routs, it is going to be very catastrophic for Wintertooth, because there's not a whole lot left that can deal with Wulfric especially, and the mass of Horsemasters on top of that. Well, they still do have the Maws of Savagery and a couple of very healthy Horsemasters themselves. There's just a little bit too much in the terms of numbers on the other side. in comes these Maws of Savagery, trying to get these attacks off onto these horse masters who are kind of a little stuck up into melee, but Wulfric the Wanderer does get a nice little surround off on top of him, and he is going to be really breaking them down, and away they do go. But now Throg is going to be catching a Wulfric who is kind of stuck between his own troops and his way out, because he does not want to stick around, even though there is a ton of Horsemasters left and a nice little rear charge, though however it's going to be a little bit of a Horsemaster sandwich here, as the Horsemasters do from the World Walkers do kind of charge in, and Wulfric does fall as he gets caught up in all of the Horsemasters from both sides. And now Throg is going to turn his attention to the Horsemasters who have charged into the rear of his own. However, his units have now been since gotten broken and have routed. And if we take a look back, we do have some Marauders in the far flank, so it is just down to some Berserkers. We have the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, but Throg himself has routed. And these Horsemasters are going to make sure he is either escorted out or he will fall to the ground amidst all of the broken Norscan warriors from both sides. And there is going to be no helping him at this point. The Berserkers are going to try and kind of get into this engagement, try as they can to assist their lord, though it's going to be a little too late for that, as all of these Horsemasters are just going to make sure that he goes down, and with how low he is, and down goes the Troll King. So now both sides have lost their lord. Old Balance of Power still says it is a little bit in favor of Wintertooth. There isn't really a whole lot left. They have a very beat down unit of Berserkers, only 16 of them left. They do have a healthy Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, but the rest of the units are all routing off the field on kind of all fronts. They would really like to have some of these Horsemasters back, but the other Shaman Sorcerer is going to make sure that doesn't happen. So now it is down just to the Shaman Sorcerer in melee, as the rest of the Berserkers do finally rout. And I mean, the Shaman Sorcerer is going to have a bit of say in that balance of power, but he is no melee combatant. And all of these Horsemasters have been fighting for this entire battle, so their rage mechanic should be ticked pretty high now at this point, and it is down just to one Shaman Sorcerer on this side. And here is a little burning head, though, as the Winds of Magic not completely depleted, as it's going to roast right on through these Horsemasters. I was waiting and waiting for that Winds of Magic to cast, and praying that Haku did not see that being cast, as his attention was diverted elsewhere. And now both of these Horsemasters are going to rout to that single cast, and this might just be enough to save the day for Wintertooth, as the Shaman Sorcerer is going to make sure that he chases them off the field. He does not want them coming back, as that was his last chance to get them off the field. There is still plenty of units left, and if they come back, that is going to be curtains. There is one unit of 12 units coming back, but the rest of these two units of Horsemasters do get escorted right off the map. And the Shaman Sorcerer is going to be looking to duel the final combatant here, as all of the other characters have finally shattered. It is one unit against one unit. It is the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire on both sides of the World Walkers and Wintertooth. And according to health, though, the Sorcerer of Wintertooth is going to have a bit of the advantage, though I'm not really sure how well the magic is sitting for the World Walkers, but he does have a very steep hill to climb, as the Shaman Sorcerer from Wintertooth is just about to crest that hill and charge down to meet his foe for the final showdown, mano a mano, and we will see who comes out on top. The field is littered with warriors here, as there's plenty of fallen Norskins, and down the hill, cresting the lip, as he will sight his opponent at last. But there is going to be a little bit of magic left in the World Walkers, and he does clip the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire, bringing that balance of power right back to even. But a downhill charge, Wintertooth does land his blow, while the World Walker does missed his attack for that first charge, and that is going to kind of shift that balance a little bit into Wintertooth's favor, as they two face off one at a time here. And this is kind of pretty interesting finish here. Not really what you'd expect to see in this, having both of the horse mages back or face off at the final stages of the battle. as we're going to try and do a point-blank fireball, but it does get canceled as the hit from the Shaman Sorcerer does stagger the World Walker, and it is going to get down to the wire, but the Wintertooth is going to be gaining the upper hand as the World Walker is losing ground bit by bit as each hit does land and he does rout, and Wintertooth takes the day against the World Walkers. A very exciting finish. Cannot get really any closer to that when it comes down to 1 unit per side. Take a little look at that after battle report. Now, the Horse Masters doing amazing work on both sides, getting over 1,000 for all of these units. These 2 units getting 3,000 between them. That is quite a lot of value in that department. I mean, getting shots off into the very low armored berserkers, even the champions getting a lot of damage dealt their way. And even the Marauder Horsemasters on Wintertooth side, though outnumbered, still performed fairly well. We have a couple over 1,000, and overall they did pretty much pay for themselves. Mods of Savagery did get a little misplayed here and there, but overall they did okay. The rest of the forces just kind of were there doing their thing, but the heroes of the day was that Shaman Sorcerer of Fire with some very nice burning heads throughout the battle, rocking up almost 2,200 in value. Throg himself getting 1,300, able to take out Wolfric, who was a little lackluster in that fight, and even the Shaman Sorcerer on the other side did quite well with almost 1,500. But definitely this kind of battle is pretty much decided by the skirmish, at least from my experience. So despite the fact that, I mean, in a tournament setting you're only allowed 4, but this is a quick battle, but it still goes to show kind of the general idea for this mirror match. It's kind of a lot like when Norsca faces Chaos. There's going to be a pretty big skirmish start in that battle. But that is going to be all I have for you today. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a good one.